Hi, welcome to The Drum this week, all the way from home in Richmond. I hope you enjoyed that little trip around America last week. I must say I was very exhausted having to go back to Chicago to Janet Jackson. Well, wink, wink, I sort of went back there, all right? But on tonight's show, we have Bewitched. They're coming in, the Irish girls, and I believe they're absolutely delightful. We're going to have a look at the charts, but who we have here now is, I'm blown out, in my house, Miss Sheryl Crow.
Hello.
Sheryl, welcome to the show.
Nice to see you again.
Absolutely. Third album, I noticed in America last week.
Yes.
Debuted in at number 3, was it?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think maybe 5.
Oh, 5. No, it's 5.
I'll take 3.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's fantastic, you know?
It is. It's really nice. You know, you never know when you make a record if you're going to lose fans, if you're going to pick up new fans, and I was really happy to hear that.
Well, I mean, let's go back to your first album. After all that time of getting an album together, and I asked you back then why it took so long, and you said, well, you know, I was doing everything else and never got around to doing my own album. And then, in retrospect, the second album, which got such critical acclaim, to now the third album, which can be sometimes a bit dicey, you know, even the second album, you know. How do you look at your life now? I mean...
Well, I kind of am amazed by it, particularly on this record, because I've now had enough distance from the way the whole thing has gone. I've been off the road now for about 8 or 9 months, and I've had some time to sort of examine what's happened, and it's really quite amazing. You know, these days, record labels don't give artists a lot of time to develop, and the fact that I only have 3 albums out, and I'm here in Australia, I've been to Russia and Japan and South America. I feel really, really lucky.
Well, it's not so much luck. I mean, there's a lot of talent in there. With Australia, I mean, you obviously have a great love for Australia. Because, I mean, you've been here a few times now.
Yes. I bought Australian art. I bought Australian jewelry.
But apart from that, I mean, obviously you love the Australian audiences as well. I mean, they love you, but I mean, you know, to come back so many times and obviously enjoy it and be very casual about it, you know, there's no... Can't put, you know, BS with you, it's meaning whatever it is. But I mean, you're so casual here, very relaxed, whatever, you know. Are you like that all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like that everywhere. I must say I'm the most non-star of the famous people that I know. And I think because of that, I enjoy a certain amount of anonymity. But, yeah, it's great. It's great to come to a place, obviously, that's far away from home and develop relationships with people and get to see them every time you come back, and I think that's how you sort of experience the culture. We've now made some pretty good friends here, and certainly after touring with Crowded House, we always look forward to coming down, hopefully seeing, you know, the guys from that band and people we've met through them. And
all right, now going back to the first album, I mean, with there, it must have been sort of like a collection of songs that had been hanging around, well, that you wanted to do for a while. The second album, was there pressure put on you? I mean, after the success of the first?
Well, because my
pressure on yourself. Did you put pressure on yourself?
Yeah, because the first album was so successful and I became kind of suspect in the public eye because of the amount of success that I'd had and because we had collaborated on the first record. When I went into the studio, I didn't feel pressure to compete with that record, but more to just make an album that I loved, because you see when you put an album out that you can be out promoting that record and playing it for 2 years, so you better feel pretty strongly about it. And that was the pressure I felt on that record, not to compete commercially. This record, though, just about beat me up in a lot of ways. Yeah, because your third album, I think, kind of sets the tone for your art. You know, it makes the artistic statement. And when I went in, as the producer on this record, I felt...
Well, so that's adding to it as well.
It is, yeah, because you're the decision maker, and you know, you have so many options at your fingertips and just a blank palette, and so it began to sort of intimidate me a little bit.
Now, not only producing this, but you moved to New York, right, or part-time in New York. You've got your own studio, which is basically only blocks down, isn't it?
Well, it was about 5 blocks from my house. Yeah.
But to produce yourself, I mean, isn't that adding the pressure?
I think for somebody like me who plays a lot of instruments, it really facilitates the process for me, because I like to track with, you know, people I have great relationships with and that are good musicians, and I have the luxury of having those people at my fingertips. But also I like to track playing bass or playing an instrument. And I just find that it's a natural extension of my songwriting and what I do.
Well, listen, let's have a look at the first of the tracks from the Globe sessions, and here it is. I don't know, she's saying it's my favourite mistake. I've got to find out what the mistake is, because the mistake is not the album. Here it is, my favourite single. When you talk about musicians, I mean, you're friendly and have the respect from so many musicians, which, I mean, must be a great testament for yourself and a great satisfaction for you, you know?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to embrace that, the fact that I am respected by those people, because I'm still sort of amazed that, for instance, Bob Dylan or the Rolling Stones even know who I am, because I was such a big fan of those people, and I still am. I still learn from music they've made in the past, and that they are still making.
Well, not only I'm a great fan, but in Bob Dylan, but to give you one of his tracks, you know, which is on really this. On this album is just fantastic, you know?
Yeah, it's actually, I think, maybe one of my favorite tracks on this album. It was a joy to record, like any Bob Dylan tune is. Now,
last year when you were out here, you had that funny little piano player, that funny little one that gets up and sings sometimes, you know?
You know
that one I mean?
Elton, yeah.
Oh, that's his name, Elton, yes.
Reginald.
And he just loved it. He absolutely loved it, you know?
Oh, I love him. I'll tell you one amazing thing about Elton John. When my second record came out, I think he'd been a fan of the first record. When my second record came out, I started hearing from people in the press and from radio people, and just tidbits everywhere, that Elton John is going around saying that this is a great album. And he really was a great promoter of my record. And when I met him, he just, he went on and on, and we've been good friends. I've done a lot of work with him since then for his AIDS philanthropies and stuff. But the most charming person. I just love him.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll reminisce, because he is actually a good friend of mine as well.
Yeah.
And I actually caught him last week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he was in New York doing. Actually, I've got to tell you this. He was in New York doing some concerts at Madison Square Gardens, and got absolutely rave reviews. I mean, it was like his solo bit. Except one reviewer, I think it was the New York Times, said that, fantastic, but ended off saying, the only thing that was a bit strange was that Elton came out dressed in this boiler suit or a mechanic suit, like a motor mechanic suit.
Right.
A little bit tight, and looked as if he was dressed more to attack the underneath of the car than attack a piano, right? And then finished the review off saying, well, how looks can be deceiving. And I ran into Elton that afternoon. I said, well, the reviews are good. He said, yes, but did you read that one about He said, that's the most expensive mechanic suit in the world. I mean, that's him, isn't it? I mean, he's just...
He sounds like me, to pick just the one tiny little...
Well, he did. He did. Now, let's pick the one tiny thing, because let's have a look at the US singles charts, but remembering at number 5 on the albums charts last week was, in fact, this lady here. First week in turn.
Moving into the top 5 is 98 Degrees with Because of You at number 5. Divine slides into the number 4 spot with Lately. Holding steady at number 3 is Drew Hill and How Deep Is Your Love. In at number 2 this week, it's the Bare Naked Ladies with 1 week, and another week on top for Monica with The First Night.
Okay, there it is, the US chart. Going back to Mississippi, which is on the one that Dylan wrote for you, on this current album. Have you ever actually performed with Dylan? Yeah,
actually, I've gotten to perform with him, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 times now. In fact, I've played accordion with him, I've played guitar with him, I've sung with him. He and I are talking about making a record together.
Wow.
Next year.
With say, someone like a Dylan, or as we'll talk about the Eltons, etc., etc., do you ever think you might do an album with, say, a track from different artists, recording with different artists as an album of your own?
Like a duets? Or,
yeah, a duets thing,
I would love to do that. I've been really reticent about calling in the big guns to work on my albums. And I don't know, I guess a part of me still feels like I don't want to overstep my boundaries or take advantage of my good relationship with these people. And also, a lot of these people are so busy. We did try on this album to get a hold of Keith Richards, and
he's also a great fan of yours.
They're perpetually on the road, so... But I think eventually I'll have the opportunity to, gather up a lot of my friends.
Well, now, when I was in New York last week, I was reading an article in a magazine, and it was an article of an interview with yourself, and you were on the front cover looking very glamorous, I might add. But it astonished me, because this tour that you did with Michael Jackson as a backing singer back in, I guess, 87 time, during 1987, which came to Australia, that in the 18 months or whatever it is that you were on this tour and actually sang a duet live with him, that he never referred to you once as your name or did with the rest of the trip that he was touring with.
Yeah, I guess that tour was 18 months long, and about 8 or 9 months into it, we made these huge name tags that looked like something off of the Mickey Mouse Club or whatever, with our names on them. And he kind of got the hint, but never managed to learn our names. It's a funny thing. I've toured with several people now, and I've learned that so much of the morale of a group is how much the leader spends with the people that are working for him. And I think he was really more into filmmaking at that time. He was much more into hanging out with his film crew than really with the band. Mind you, I must say that you were very gracious, because you also said, when you were referring to that each night you still would go out there in awe of the performer on stage, that he was just quite awesome in that sense. I mean, it's not it's that whole sort of pageantry and sort of Broadway spectacle sameness every night is not really my bag, but you have to get up to the guy, because he's doing stuff that no one had ever done before him, and that's really quite amazing when you're trying to create something that's original. And I'll tell you where it was also reading that article, because the next day I was in Chicago with Janet, and Janet's actually almost the opposite, because she embraces all her dancers, all her musicians, all the backing singers, and they're all like one big family. So it was such even a contrast to see and read about the both, you know? Yeah. Listen, let's not dwell on that. Let's go to another song, and this is one of my favourites. Do you like it? What is it? It's called A Change Will Do You Good. Yeah. Right, there it is. A Change Will Do You Good, one of my favourite songs, and as my producer Louis said, it's one of his too, so there you go. I've always liked Louis. He's a nice guy, isn't he? Now listen, with, after Australia, what's happening? I'm going home for a couple of weeks. I'm starting to work with Stevie Nicks on her album. She's getting ready to start recording, and I'm going to produce, and then doing some promotion in Europe in November, and then out on the road in February. Actually, when you get home then, and with Stevie's a great friend. Oh, she is? And in fact, a long time ago, when we were still doing Countdown, the show I used to do way back, Stevie and I did an interview in that Egyptian room. And it went for 3 hours. She was in tears, and I was in tears, and she was just wonderful, you know. So do give her my love. She's amazing. I just did some tracks with her for this movie, and you never know about people, but she hung out until 4, 5 in the morning with me while we were working, and she's great. So listen, thanks for coming on the show. Have a great Christmas. You too. And if you ever do a video of Mississippi, you've got to have Dylan in it. You've got to have Dylan in it. You start calling him, and I'm going to start calling him now, too. We'll start working. He's been here as well, you know? Yeah, I heard, with Patty Smith. He arrived with, and also, in fact, arm in arm with Lauren Bacall. He arrived in the house here. Well, I got to drop the glass, you know? How amazing. I would have just seen that. All right, so we finish your scene with All I Want to Do? Yes, let's do it. All right, here's Sheryl with All I Want to Do, and then we'll go to a break, and after that we've got those girls from Ireland, and that should be something else.